going on, boys? 1 in the morning, just pulled up to the gym, about to do a leg day. But I had a few thoughts, and something that I really wanted to just kind of share with you guys before I do get into the gym and hit the leg day. But something that I've been dealing with, and thinking about for the last, I would say, almost couple months, is that you gotta stay true to yourself, number one, and number two is that you're gonna get tested. Now, I'm 27, and throughout pretty much the last 7, 8 years, I've been tested multiple times, in ways that I never really thought I could be tested in. But ever since I turned 27, which is kind of ironic, it's now been like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I've been tested in all the areas of my life where I could be tested in. And truthfully, I didn't stay true to myself and I didn't listen to what my body, my brain, what my gut was telling me. I would almost ignore those feelings because I knew that I don't want to go through that path. It was uncomfortable for me. And what is that path? The path was basically just kind of disappearing and for a period of time focusing on myself. For the last couple of years, I've been helping other boys, other guys, younger, older, find a path in life, try to help them resolve some of the problems that they have. And what that meant for me is that I, of course, had to take in their energy and I had to listen to their problems, which I'm more than happy to do. I love helping others, and I think I do have a unique ability to see things from multiple perspectives rather than just being one-dimensional and only giving one cookie-cutter advice. I really try to understand their perspective, their point of view, their brain, what led them to certain situations, what got them to certain points in their life. But at the end of the day, the more you kind of listen and take on the energy from others, you lose yourself in the process to an extent, especially if you have no one who can kind of help you refill your cup, so to speak, right? Or if you don't really refill your cup yourself. And I think that's where I kind of got lost and where I wasn't staying true to myself, because I was constantly giving out my energy, my knowledge, and I'm more than happy to do so once again. But I didn't have anyone in my life who could do the same for me, and I wasn't doing that for myself either. And so this week, was kind of the turning point for me, because I was talking to, a specific person, I really cared about that person. We could almost say that I love her. Well, I did. I don't think I voiced it as much as I should have, but at the end of the day, my care and my feelings were deep. Things happened and things ended. And I think that's where I just really realized, that the feeling of disappearing and going ghost is something that I've been battling with for a long time, but she made me realize, or this situation made me realize, that that is what I have to do if I want to elevate to the next point or the next level in my life. I have to take care of myself first so I can show up better for others. And what's kind of funny is that the morning we kind of ended things, we broke up. I was in a car wash, I was going to just wash down my truck in the car wash, and just out of bad habit, I locked my keys and my phone inside of the car. So I went to the gas station, I had the guy call a tow truck for me. The guy was about, 1 hour, 2 hours away. And I didn't have my phone, I didn't have my keys. And so all I could really do is just sit on the ground and wait for him to show up. But because I had nothing to distract myself with, I had no phone, I couldn't research anything, I couldn't look into anything. I was just sitting there with a blank stare looking at the cars in front of me. And I was really thinking, about what my next step should be and how I should handle this situation. And I just logically realized, that the feeling that I've been suppressing for a very long time, which is staying true to myself, and taking time for myself, now is the time for me to do so. And that was the catalyst for that to happen. And you know what? I guess this is another one of those tests, because letting go of people that you really cared about for years on end, letting go of the communities that you've been a part of for years on end, let go of her and respecting her decision. If you truly cared, those are gonna be some very hard pills to swallow, because you're gonna be left on your own for a period of time. And you have to sit with those feelings. You have to sit with your mind, and you have to feel everything that comes at you. You're gonna have moments where you feel really happy and you feel like that was the right move, but there will also be times where you just feel like you made a mistake. Letting go of her essentially meant letting go of other guys that I really cared about. Guys that I've been able to communicate with openly, guys that I've been able to help. And at this point, I left them in the dark. I left them on their own. And that is a part of the pain that I have to deal with, on daily basis and for the days and weeks to come. Because not only I cared about her, but I also cared about the community that I was a part of. And I really felt like I was able to contribute and provide value in ways where others wouldn't be able to do so. Because we live in a day and age where everything is very much surface level. People are just giving cookie cutter advices. No one really listens anymore. But I know I was there and I was listening. And I was giving personalized, advice or point of view to these individuals. And I no longer have them in my life. I don't have her in my life, and we cared about each other deeply. And that, all adds to the pain. But the point of this message is that you're gonna be tested, at times where you could never imagine to be tested at. It's all gonna happen either randomly or everything is just gonna collapse all at once. And it will be a test of your character. At the end of the day, I believe that everything happens for a reason. And before you do elevate to the next level in your life, you do have to go through the pain. You have to feel a certain way, which is not pretty. And you really have to come to a logical conclusion of what is right and what is wrong, without emotions attached. You really have to self-reflect on everything that you have done and where you really want to go. Which people are gonna come with you and which people are just gonna be left behind in the dust. As harsh as this may sound, not everyone deserves a place in your life. Not because they are necessarily bad individuals or bad people, but because you're outgrowing them so much. Because where you want to go in life, they wouldn't be able to stand on their own feet. And it's all a part of the process. Some of the guys that I spoke with before I made my departure, they were going through breakups, just like I am now. And it's kind of crazy because, I've been able to give them good advice on how to overcome it. And not too long after, I find myself in the same shoes as them. When you truly care about someone and, you love someone and you had amazing moments with them and you are intimate and vulnerable, it really hits you hard because you don't know what you want to do or what you're gonna do. You don't know how to feel. And it does mess up with your psychology. It messes up with your mind. And that's where you have to find ways to self-regulate. Whatever that might be, for some people it might be running. For some people it might be boxing. For some people it might be going out for a drive, listening to music. It all depends, there is no one way fits all. We all have different ways that we regulate ourselves, and we all have different ways to put ourselves into the right mindset. But it is important that you don't forget who you are. You don't forget about your character. If you have done everything correctly, if you are a good person, there is no reason for you to feel ashamed, embarrassed. There is no reason for you to be really hard on yourself. Now, if you've made your mistakes and if the relationship ended because of what you were doing, then you want to make sure you work on those things that messed it up in the first place, so that if you do meet someone down the line, you don't repeat the same patterns, so that you can be a better person for the next person that comes into your life. And so that you can build something meaningful. Oftentimes, going ghost, perhaps cutting people out of your life, it may seem really selfish. And it's a valid argument, it will be selfish to you in the beginning because it's not something that maybe you have done before. It doesn't feel natural. Other people may find it selfish as well. But it's really not, it just means that you're putting yourself first and you are doing what you believe is the right move for you at this point in time. When you get tested in life, you want to make sure that you have certain components already established within yourself. What are those components gonna be? And they are very basic. But it's gonna be your discipline. It's gonna be your ability to show up, whether it's in your business, in your workplace, in your family gatherings, whatever the case might be, regardless of how you feel. It's gonna be your ability to operate like you normally would, even though you have the burden in the back of your mind. You want to make sure that you fuel your body, properly with the right food, whole food, so that it can continue to take, all the stress and all the pain, but utilize it properly. You want to make sure that you're still getting your sleep and you're recovering well. Because during that recovery period is where you are actually healing properly. Your brain has the ability to detach and really kind of settle, if that makes sense. I know a lot of guys, they are afraid of being vulnerable with other guys. Some guys may not really have good support groups or good friends. And I'm in that position. I can't just go and talk about all these problems with just anyone. Especially because, ever since I was young, I always had to deal with a lot of these obstacles in the way on my own. Because I knew if I share it with the wrong person, it's gonna be used against me. And so I had to find my ways of navigating these waters. I had to find my ways of regulating myself and how I feel and how I show up. I guess this is the hardest path because you cannot really open up to anyone about anything, especially if you don't have anyone in the first place. And everything that you're feeling, you have to feel yourself on your own in the darkness, which adds, a whole lot more stress, a whole lot of element of pain. But I want to reassure you that you can get through it, and you will get through it. It's just a matter of time. As the famous saying goes, time heals all. And it is also important to remember that people come and go into your life. Some will stay for longer, some will stay for a shorter amount of time. But at the end of the day, something that you will always have is yourself. You do have to be your own best friend. You have to be there in times of sorrow, times of pain. You have to be there for yourself, no matter what happens. Because all you have is yourself. I wish I could say that we can rely on others, and we certainly can. A lot of people are very fortunate to have very good friends and very good connections in their life. But I'm also very aware of the dynamic these days, and people not having anyone. They can't rely on just anyone. They have to be very careful about who they speak with for their own good. Now, when it comes to the, staying true to yourself, like I said, you want to make sure you don't ignore the internal feelings that your body is trying to tell you, or the universe perhaps. If you have a feeling about going ghost or cutting someone out of your life, or maybe you've been building a business that you can't really relate with, as much as I would tell you, yes, just fucking pursue it and make it happen no matter what, I do also believe you have to choose a business that you can enjoy building, that you actually enjoy and you can show up each and every day for. Our mind is the most powerful tool that we have. People would argue, oh, ChatGPT, internet, we can find anything. It's so powerful. But really, at the end of the day, the most powerful thing is going to be your mind and your ability to understand yourself and come up with logical decisions. Being able to take your past experiences and apply them in your current time, it's gonna be a lot better for you than internet, because you've already been through it. You know how you behave under certain situations or in certain situations, and you know how to get out of them. You have all the details already within yourself. You can ask ChatGPT a question, but ChatGPT only knows so much about you and about what you have asked. So if you're going through something like I am right now, I want you to know that it's gonna be just fine, and it's just a matter of time before you come out on top and with a better mindset, with a better view of the world. And no matter how painful it is, it's like a season in your life. It's gonna disappear. But the question is, do you have the mental strength to sit through all the negative feelings that you experience, or are you just gonna delay those feelings and numb them with drugs and alcohol? Because that's not gonna get you anywhere. It's only gonna slow down the healing process that you really have to attack head on right away. I have my regrets. I think about the good situations, or the good memories that I had with that individual, and I also have my regrets. But the decision has been made, and there is nothing I can do about it. It is out of my control. So now I have to go through these experiences, and I have to feel what I have to feel, and come to the acceptance that what happened, I could have showed up differently, absolutely. But when it comes to the decision itself, that has been made, and I cannot change it. We can't just force our way into, well, we can. Oftentimes we can force our way, into different situations, different activities, but we can't really force our way into relationships and trying to prove ourselves, to other people. They either accept us for who we are or they don't. And if they don't accept you for who you are right now, that just means they will not accept you even when you're better. If a person sees potential within you, they are willing to stick it out. They are willing to stick through it. And once you do get better, in a better position, whether it's mentally, financially, spiritually, it's only gonna amplify. It's only gonna amplify, that experience you both share and have. So yeah, it's time to hit some legs. Stay true to yourself. Don't ignore those internal feelings that you have. We all have them. Don't ignore your intuition. And in times when you get tested, don't crumble. Be strong, be able to handle it. And it's just a matter of time before it all fades away. It all becomes a memory. And even though it will be a memory, you've been through that experience and you've learned your lessons. Good and bad. So even if it seems really dark in this moment, there's also a lot of things that you will learn about that particular situation and about yourself. And those things are going to shape your character and your personality and your identity. And it's gonna make you a better human being. All right, boys. Stay strong.